This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we have another good neighbor on, Lucas Shane Wade with Spotlight Recovery. Man, welcome to the show. Happy to talk to you today.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I'm excited, man. This is cool.
Yeah, this is going to be really good. Little background on us. I don't want to spoil it, but the audience only knows what they know. And you and I have had a relationship for the last couple of years. We do a fair bit of work outside of outside of my day-to-day in the addiction community, counseling, helping people get through those mental frameworks. Wonderful community of connection, insanely brave and courageous people, and has certainly been a playground in which I have become a much better person. I'm very happy to have you on today. You are certainly a role model in the community, no question. Vast life experience. Your relationship with me has been very meaningful, dear friend. So I can stop the complimenting now. Let's get right into it.
I'm already blushing enough. Look at the red in my skin.
Yeah, man, just really happy to have you on the show. It's not too often that I can get a friend that's also a client of ours that's also doing a lot of really good work. So I'm excited to share with the audience what you do.
Yeah, we're in a pretty lucky spot, you and I. It's pretty neat how the paths have just like intersected and come here just by zero planning of our own. It's pretty neat.
Organically, man. It's I talk to people all the time. I say, if you can be who you really are, I know that authentic self is kind of a buzzword these days, but if you look at it, what it is, if you can just be who you are, then you are a unique puzzle piece, and you go out there and you find your other unique puzzle pieces, and you're not meant to fit everybody. But if you are who you really are, you got no masks, you will find those perfect fits. And that's kind of what I've looked at our relationship as. There was no agenda. There was no bullshit. It just happened. One conversation led to 1,000. And here we are today.
The conversation started quickly to you then training me and then pushing my ass in the gym harder and harder. And then, years later, here we are.
That's it, man. So let's dive right into it. What is Spotlight Recovery?
Spotlight Recovery is my company. I focus on doing private recovery coaching with folks, not just sober coaching. Getting sober is one thing, but then building a life in an actual recovery that you want, building that quality of life that you want is really what I focus on doing with folks. So that's one main area and pillar of the company. And then the other two is we've got a YouTube channel that we're really building up that eventually we want to get full of other recovery coaching videos, our own podcast that we've got that provide you the help you need. You can find it from somewhere else. Just getting as much access to recovery coaching as possible is the ultimate goal. And those are those two main avenues, like I was saying, working with me one-on-one, and then being able to go to our website or YouTube channel and finding an array of other information.
I love it. So you glitched out there for like 3 seconds. So I'm going to summarize that takeaway. You get the one-on-one. So you get that deep dive with individuals, helping them. Step number one, get sober. And then what do I do from there? It's like, now we got to build a life. That's what you're there to guide them through, to show by your experience, vast experience, vast knowledge. And then you, from my perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, but your YouTube channel and these other public platforms are kind of access to you, your teachings, the community, other recovery, so people can now not just be able to sit down with you one-on-one, but they can learn from this pretty much educational platform is what you're going to be putting out there to help increase the quality of people's lives in some form of recovery. I mean, I think we all are in some way. We all have our challenges. That's what I look at it as, all trying to get better. So you have the education platform for the public, and then you have one-on-one training for that deep dive.
Exactly. Right. And so how they work really well together is when I'm coaching folks, and depending on the topic that comes up, then if I've got homework to give them, I can also give them a video with the homework. So I'm like, cool. Here's a topic you really got to work on. So like, one great one is I've got a video. It's called the top 5 exercise. And a lot of people, an issue for them when they come into recovery, they're like, when you get into addiction so deeply, you lose a sense of who you are and
Yeah.
you like to do what you want to do. And when you come out of that fog, you're just like, I don't even know where to start anymore. And so I'm like, great, watch this video. It's going to take it, but former me in a video, is going to take you through this exercise, going through things that you used to love to do before your addiction even was a part of your life, things that you then start letting slide or then get replaced by that addiction, and then things you've always wanted to do, but for one reason or another have never been able to accomplish them. And so then you
Yeah.
listing through those things, and then we're able to start breaking them down and be like, okay, let's make these pipe dreams into smart goals. Let's start getting these steps through and start actually working towards them. You know? So uh doing the coaching with me and then building the channel have this really good symbiotic relationship where I'm either coaching a person and then can send them homework, go watch this video, get your answers down, and we'll work on them in our next session. Or somebody can see the video on YouTube, go, man, that's really good. What do I do with this? And then reach out to me to then be able to take them through it further.
Oh, man, I love it. And any entrepreneurs that I listen to that, I got to tell you, Lucas just alluded to one of the best hacks if you have a team that I have come across. My day-to-day is getting many phone calls from the same people asking the same questions, as there is only really so many questions to ask. There's only so many objections to have. There's only so many ways to provide value. And I luckily have very great mentors in my life. And I'm like, this is soaking up 25% of my time, and I'm a broken record. And
Yeah.
he's like, dude, make a video. And then when they ask you that question, you say to them, go to the video. If you have any questions after that, call me up. Now they've done a little bit of homework. They've gotten that, quality reminder, and you just took 30 seconds to point them to your video, which you can do forever. So that's what I've been doing for the last year and a half or so. Make that one educational video for that objection, for that whatever. And then when the team calls up or anybody else, it's like, yep, there's your answer over there. And now you have this library of educational content, which not only helps me, the creating of it, the teaching of it helps me learn it better, but I'm so much more efficient with the team now because I can get back to helping clients, learning new creative strategies, and not answering those same questions every day to a team of 20 people. You can just point them to your educational library. So absolutely a symbiotic relationship like you talked about. It's an unbelievable value add to your time and to your people. I love that you do that.
Yep. And can I sneak peek at a third stage of this that I'm going for?
Oh yeah, we want that sneak peek.
So one day down the road, as soon as I can, I got to put the business end of it together. I want to launch my own recovery app. So you have a third piece connected with this too, because there's a bunch of them out there, but from my experience, they all have different gaps in them in one way or the other. And so I want to be able to build just like a total all-in-one package recovery app. So that when folks get on there, it's able to help and guide you with all these other aspects of your life and recovery, like not just the sobriety counter, the daily reflections, helping with scheduling on meetings and taking medications, and potentially like connecting with other folks in recovery. And then, of course, connecting it then to all of this content that I'm building on the YouTube channel. So then eventually that can be another way that we could communicate. That can be a space where you have access to not only our work, make notes there, your like own reflections or journaling or something. And then also this video content as well, where I'm going to be giving you homework and sending you to. So that's the down the road goal. We're working towards it, but ultimately you're going to have all of these three pieces all working together nice and smooth to ultimately get you the most help and support for your recovery as easily as possible.
Man,
That's going to
this
be
is one of
cool,
the
huh?
things. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
as you're saying this, I've been so lucky to be around some great people. And one of my favorite things about this day and age is I look at all human beings as a book of experience, knowledge, all different levels of quality to that book. Somebody who's been alive for 10 days, very short book. Somebody who's been alive for 10,000 days, that's a much denser book. And depending on the quality of that experience, the level of education, how involved they've gotten, people do life differently. But there are people out there that have really done life well. And when they provide access to the public to them, it can look something like this. So now I can get, Steve Jobs in the form of a biography, bunch of videos. I can find out who he is, what made him tick, Elon Musk, all these people because of this information age. Yeah, there's a lot of shit we need to weed through, but if you weed through it, you get to this quality information where you get to benefit from somebody who's traveled the path a little further, a little bit better than maybe you did easily. So you can change a life very quickly. And this is what I'm hearing from you. If you need that deep dive, you have that one-on-one, those more intimate experiences, then basically a library of education that you're sharing out there. And then everything and then this app to tie it all together in the future. It's just the end of the day, it's helping people create a better space for themselves. And information and connection, I find, are those ways. And it just needs to be done. I just love that these things are happening.
Well, yeah, and like it's just so funny because, gosh, I don't even know. Do we call it the information age anymore?
I
Is
don't
it the
know.
digital age now? It's same with like my generation. Like I don't know what my generation's called anymore, right? It changes every couple of years. But
Yeah.
for an alleged information age, information is so hard to find. It seems because everybody has all these endless platforms to put stuff out there, you now are having to weed through so much more to be getting information that you need.
Yeah.
And that's also a real issue, I feel, just with the addiction recovery industry in general, is that this information is not public, is not accessible, is not out there. It's either still so much not talked about nearly enough because it's so stigmatized, or it's hidden behind like big like private paywalls, huge like wait lists for any government funded information or resourcing, or like it's on an old archaic website or something. So that's like such a big motivator with my organization and why I started this and why I'm going in this direction, is because to me it all seems pretty simple now. It's like you have one, maybe two platforms where you can have all of this stuff concise, easily put down into these digestible videos, 1 hour sessions at a time with me to be digging through this stuff. It just, I saw this great opportunity where I'm like, so much of this info hasn't been consolidated and put into good, digestible, directive content for folks that's really going to make an impact in their life and be able to really help them. Like I said, not just be sober, build a life in recovery. And so that's like why I just see this opportunity and I'm just so excited to be able to be diving into this because oh gosh, if this was around when I first got sober, like, oh my God.
And that's what I find from
Oh,
so many entrepreneurs is, how did you come to do what you do? They're like, well, I experienced this problem, this bottleneck, this whatever in my life, and I found gaps. So I made a
yeah.
business with less gaps. And
Well,
that just
yeah.
seems to be what it is. I experienced this. I thought to myself, man, wouldn't this be great if this happened now? But it didn't for whatever reason. And now you take something that was already built and you refine it through your experience, which means if you're refining it through your experience, even though we are all unique individuals, I think there's much more similarities than differences. So if you find it to be better because of this thing, then many other people will find the same thing. Maybe didn't even recognize there was a gap that is now closed. And they're like, wow, this is a lot better than I thought. So I love
Yeah.
that you're doing it, man. I love that
Yeah.
you're doing it this way, not just one-on-one. I think that's very important because that's
Crucial.
where the deep dive is.
It's
But
so important.
then I can access it in the evening, in the morning, and whatever, whenever I need that reminder, I'm going through that stuff and I don't have my one-on-one, I now can get it when I need it, which is great.
Totally. You know, and there's two things with it just that I wanted to kind of add on with what you were saying. The one is the goal is for this channel to outgrow me. So it's, of course, it's all so much as me and my work for now, but I can't wait to get so many people featured on it, sharing their experiences and things that have helped them in recovery, different like other therapists and organizations like that offer different things that I do. So it's just full of so many people eventually you like I may be removed from it a bit. So you may not be able to tell like who started this thing, who ran it or not, because it's just full of people in this industry being able to help. So there's one, and that's going to be cool. But the other two is earlier you were talking about people coaching and sharing all of this information because they're doing so well or like a life well lived. I can't remember the wording you used, but it's something like that. Like they had that success and therefore are sharing it with others. A thing that I find so funny and also just love about this industry is, yes, that's where I'm at now. And how I got here was by doing it all really bad. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, how do you do all this so well? Well, first, I was a train wreck. I needed to, right? Just get broken down back to zero, back to a total restart, rebuild everything up properly or much healthier for me through a life in recovery. And now, 12 years later, this is the current result, not end result, because I'm still growing and doing this every day.
Yeah, and I love that. In my head, I think a lot of us do, metaphors, analogies. I always think of that mountain, right? If you're the first person to walk that arduous trail, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be a lot of falls. There's going to be a lot of mistakes. There's going to be a lot of failures. But if that person keeps going, now the next person that goes will have a little bit of an easier path. And then the next person, a little bit easier, a little bit easier, a little bit easier. It's not to the point that we don't want people to face challenges. That's not the point, and make this easy, comfy, cushy couch path, because we need those challenges.
Yeah.
But there are unnecessary But there are unnecessary pitfalls that don't need to be faced. I don't need to not wear my seatbelt while I'm driving and get in an accident to find out the value of the seatbelt, because somebody has already done that for me. Or the pitfalls of smoking or eating fast food. Like, I don't need to make those mistakes on my own, because somebody already figured that out for me. So to just a little bit easier journey, or a little bit more fluid, or just get there a little bit faster. That's what mentorship is to me. Evolution of human beings. You are walking a similar path, but because somebody has already done it before you, you can now benefit from their rich human experiences. And that's what I look at you as. You have already climbed Mount Everest a handful of times, and you are making a much smoother path for the people that are coming after you. And unfortunately, the world of addiction, it seems like that is an endless line of people that are going to walk that mountain. It seems like, at least from my world that I'm in, it does not seem like that line is getting shorter. It really seems the opposite. So you are insanely necessary and needed people like yourself right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I really started getting into this, like even more like to that next level when I did, was during COVID, right? Like, up until that point, I've been working at one of the largest addiction treatment hospitals in the country. And I was with them for 8 years. And then COVID started and we went our separate ways, like a lot of people did, a lot of places in during that time. And then for those preceding months, and you just kept seeing it everywhere. And before then, everyone talked about the opioid crisis. And again, that became like a tagline thing. And it's like, yes, I'm not going to deny that we have an opioid crisis. We have an addiction crisis. Like, don't lose focus almost. You know what I mean? Like, it's alcohol is still the most common. That's the most legal thing that you see everywhere, is still the most common addiction, like incomparably, so opioid crisis. Absolutely. We have an addiction crisis, and people couldn't go out. People couldn't leave their homes. And it's phenomenal how, like, we've had Zoom for so long and video calls, and it was so not normalized until COVID. I'm sitting here, I'm like, we've had this for like well over 10 years. Why did it take us this long to get doing this? Anyway, I digress. There was that opportunity to be able to be helping folks. I mean, relapse rates went up so much because you couldn't get to your meeting or your home group and see your recovery friends. Well, and then a lot of meeting spaces, unfortunately. I don't know if you heard about or saw this about Zoom bombings. Did you hear about this?
No.
Tons. Oh my God. So what happened to so many people like in 12-step communities, because you want to post the link out there so people can get to a meeting.
Oh yeah, I know where you're going.
Anybody could join. So people would be jumping in and yelling horrible things and putting terrible stuff on their videos, like, and just messing with these meetings. And it's like, you don't understand. Like, if addicts, if we don't get our support and recovery, we die. Trigger warning and pardon the harshness, but it's the reality of us. We do not live. And people were messing with this constantly. It's still an issue now, frankly. So all of that was awful. And there was just so much support that was gone or not accessed or just being messed up like it was, like what I was just sharing with you. So, and I'm just sitting there at home alone being like, I have so much to give. Like, I got to help. What do I, And so that's where those ideas came, the one I'd had a YouTube channel with a bunch of friends of mine. It was like a fun hobby channel, that collector card game, Magic the Gathering. Just total nerds, just hanging out with my buds, nerding out, ripping on each other. Great time. But so already built all the skills. Now just transfer the content over from being a nerd with your friends to helping people. And then same, instead of one-on-one sessions somewhere else or in a treatment center, sober house, whatever, let's hop on a call exactly like this, And it's like, I know, yes, maybe, and this is a big thing. People still have that resistance of like, oh, we don't have, just like that feeling of being in the room or getting up and going out to another space. But I mean, we still have body language, tone of voice, expression, like so many major things of communication are still happening right now. But now you have that convenience and comfort of your own home and space. You're removing all that time and potentially other like stressful triggers to and from. If you're like, okay, go to my recovery coaching session, great, I feel so much better, but I have social anxiety, so now I gotta go sit on a crammed bus or subway for an hour home, and I just did all this great work with somebody, but now I'm getting triggered and ramping up again. I'm already in some ways feeling like I'm undoing pieces of this work just to try to go and access the help itself. That doesn't make any sense. Here's a link. Let's get into it. It's me and you, private link, no bombing, nobody else in any other space. Really get into this stuff. And then if something hits hard enough, you're at home. You are at, hopefully we all strive to make, our safest and most comfortable place possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then sidebar with that. If that's not the case, well, then that's something else I can work on you with. Like it, So anyway, yeah, just kind of went off on it a little bit, but
I love it. Go off, buddy. Want to hear it. I remember when I was getting into the marketing world, my objective was to help businesses grow through connecting people to people, people to businesses, message spreading, whatever word you want to use. And so the topic came up of content creation, of sharing things online or sharing things in some way, networking event, just share your experience. And she told me, she's like, you don't have to have a PhD or, be the most elite at this thing to have an impact on people. In many cases, you just need to make your human experience accessible to the person that hasn't gotten to your level yet. If you're in, let's use a very simple example. If you're in grade 11 and you're sharing your grade 9, 10, and 11 experiences to a grade 9 and 10, you're a little bit further in the journey. Maybe you could really impact them. As a grade 11, you're not trying to impact the PhD student, but there's so many people in each pool of category that this rung of the ladder of mentorship, of evolution in a way, just sharing what it is that you've experienced, all the skills that you've learned along the way. Now, you do have the education to back it, but it's just making your story accessible to people in and of itself can be so valuable to the people that need to hear it. And we all struggle, whether it's with addiction or it's a relationship challenge or whatever it is. Those challenges, when that wall seems so high you cannot surmount it, often you will just stay on the one side of that wall for too long. So I talk about mentors all the time. You want to call them coaches, you want to call them experts, whatever you want to call them.
Tomato, potato.
Yeah. A human being has done something that I want to do that I haven't done it yet. And if they've opened up their life to me in some way, many of them are dead, that they have never met me, but they were good enough to write down daily things and produce tons of work for me to be like, oh my God, 1,000 years ago, an emperor was going through the same thing I'm going through, but way worse. And they weren't complaining somehow and still spent half their day helping people. What excuse do I have? It totally changed my life. The same way you're putting yourself out there. So I love it. So we are on question 1 of 9, and it's been 30 minutes.
Awesome. Hey, we're nothing if not efficient. All right.
So, you know me, I like the philosophy. I like the deep conversations. I know you do too. So let's get into the why. I'm not even going to provide any context. Normally I do, but you don't need it. Why did you get into this, man? I mean, you gave us the COVID, but that's the most recent why, I think. I think there's a long why before that. Why do this?
Yeah.
Why do it?
Yeah. So I'm in. So yeah, surprise. I'm in recovery myself. Sure, I've mentioned that at some point. I actually, the timing of this is so cool. I just celebrated 12 years clean and sober yesterday. Yesterday was the day. Medallion is tonight after this recording, which is so cool. I was telling everybody else, because you're coming, which is going to be great.
I'm going to be there, buddy.
It's going to be so fun. But so that's what got me into this. And just trigger warning, folks at home, because it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows getting in here. I came into recovery after surviving suicide. I got to that spot, and this was just a 23. I got a 23, to the point where it's not that I wanted to get sober. I didn't want to live.
Yeah.
I didn't want to live. And, I'll put videos and stuff about this, and folks who work with me, I'll obviously share all kinds of things with them. But that 17 to 23 time in addiction got real bad real fast. And I had just got to that living hell of that space and couldn't deal with my own recovery, my own mental health. I've got other concurrent disorders too, where obviously as humans we're very complicated. And so I had a lot going on and didn't know how to deal with. It got to the point of any of it besides just numbing it out with drugs. And even that didn't work anymore. I got to that point. I was like, no matter how much of whatever I could find, it wouldn't shut that noise off in the brain, So I am so lucky and blessed. My roommate at the time found me literally the next day. And in the hospital, they told me that I medically should not be alive. After I told them what all was in my system and for how long and all of that stuff. And I'm just seeing, I'm at the largest trauma hospital in Toronto, and they're all just looking at me as I'm telling them, listing them, and they're just like, we should not be having a conversation right now, which was unreal. And so from there, went into treatment right away. Treatment rolled out into sober housing, and I was on welfare, just going to meetings, volunteering, just doing the basics, like scrambling to be like, okay, well, I'm at this bizarre fork in the road where I didn't want to live. I allegedly did a great job at trying to do that. And yet the universe still said, yeah, well, that's not your call. Live. So what do you do? What do you do? And that's the spot I was at. Didn't want to live. Didn't have a choice in it. Here's your path out is recovery. And all of this recovery, AA, 12-step, like none of these were words I had heard before. This was all a brand new language to me. And from then to now, over these 12 years, it has been an inexplainable amount of work and treatment and therapy. I will always be in therapy. Coaches need coaches, as you know. Therapists need therapists. I will always be getting my own help and continuing it. And it was so much work to get all the help that I needed. And like I said, I kept hitting paywalls, having to dig around tirelessly for all this information, and just constantly asking and having countless conversations with people to be getting the better, the information that worked for me. And so, of course, yeah, coming out of that, later on, I was looking at all of this in the industry and just being like, there's got to be a better way. I feel like Billy Mays right now. There's got to be a better way. Right? But an infomercial. But it's true. I'm like, there's got to be a better way for this. There's got to be, like, this just seems so much easier to streamline. It shouldn't be so hard to get life-saving, essential information. And so not only with YouTube, like we were talking about a bunch, but also with this recovery coaching aspect. Like another big part, so many people always, that's the typical family response. Oh, this family member is an addict, they need therapy. Well, how many therapists are specialized in addiction? Right. So then how are they going to help you? How are they going to help you get sober, stay sober, build that life in recovery? Like, you have to go through how many therapists then to find somebody who can actually speak this recovery language? Again, another thing, got to be a better, easier way. That's where this work comes in with folks. Why I love recovery coaching is because you're taking like sober coaching, counseling, aspects of psychotherapy, you're putting them all in the same space, but all focused on building that life in recovery, a better way to go about it. So it was just all of that life experience, and then being blessed to then be successful in my recovery and do the work and get all the help that I needed, get the education then to be able to make it the total package deal and understand it from a whole other lens, and then be able to start packaging and putting this out there for folks to be able to get that information, or then to work with me directly on it and get that information.
So not only do you have, we call it in our space, lived experience, which is in most cases humans are living, so they're having lived experience in something.
Yeah.
But, it hits a lot harder. We talk about it, a player coach on my team or a practitioner over preaching. If I'm going to teach you about fitness, then I better have my fitness game down. If I'm going to teach somebody about marketing, same thing. We market ourselves. So we can show our clients that this is not only what we suggest for you, but this is what we did for ourselves and, thousands of other clients. It hits a lot harder when you have gone up there and swung the bat and hit the ball rather than just telling people how to do it. So you lived it, you went through it, you went through this hell period, and that led you to seeking help, which then led you to getting educated. And now that you had, I'm just making assumptions here, but I know a little bit about your story. So you started, you went through hell, sought out help, then got educated formally, university, and then you now had the space to start helping others. And that's where you found yourself at, what would you call them? Treatment facilities, helping other people, counseling, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That, sober houses. Yeah.
So can you dive into what happens a little bit there? Like first off, I love that it's a multidisciplinary approach. This is something that I've been learning more about these last 5-6 years is
so important.
Yeah. Rather than getting good at one thing is difficult, getting good at multiple things is more difficult. So right away, I have a great deal of admiration and respect for people that do that. But in most things, there are gaps. And by having another discipline, you can provide more value. And with more coaches that are more multidisciplined, then now you're teaching multiple disciplines at a time. So it speeds up that learning curve. So I love that. But let's talk about some of the work that you have done like all the people that you have helped in that. Let's talk about the treatment facility if you can. What do you do there?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do there?
Mm-hmm. So a couple of things. So right once I'd finished my program, and as soon as I could, I started volunteering. As there right
Mm-hmm.
away already volunteering in programs. And then I'm immediately in like that, mentor mentee position, like helping addictions doctors and therapists and all the other aspects of the team, working, giving back to program. And like I'm relearning and learning more about it. And then I'm learning how to know now to start presenting it, how to start teaching it, so I love that um, adage of just like the best way you can know you've learned something is when you're able to teach it. So,
Agreed,
so
100%.
right. So then exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
That and Albert Einstein, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough.
So true.
Right. But so anyway, doing that right away and running classes and working with all of the other staff there. And then my job for the longest period of time there was a support counselor. I was in a neat position when I was volunteering and in recovery, and I got to that point long enough that they said, "Look, if you get an education, we'll give you a job." Like it was basically that straightforward. I walked out, showed them my enrollment papers. They're like, we traded those for a contract. Like it just immediately. It was so great. And so I was a support counselor there for a long time. 5 years, I think. I don't know. Just we'll ballpark 5 years, quite a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're there not only as just like a general support, you're like the ad hoc go to on the fly counselors. So you're
Mm-hmm.
making sure everybody, because it was a bigger space. So getting to the sessions where they needed to be on time appointments with their doctor or their primary counselor or anything like that. And then running sessions as well. So you get folks there and then
Mm-hmm.
deliver the session yourself. And then in all of that off time, and this would be a lot more so in the evenings or overnights when you're doing night shifts, is then you're that go to counselor. So
Mm-hmm.
you're the person who's there and available when anybody can just walk up to you. Hey, do you have a minute? Or wake up in the middle of the night with night terrors and are really triggered, come to you, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I was part of the nursing unit at that time. So we have like the physical health and the mental health like all in one team.
Mm-hmm.
And you develop a lot of a lot of skill through that position because I think that is so much more challenging than a scheduled one-on-one with somebody. And then especially when you've built rapport with them, the stuff that's going on with them and what they want to come and talk to you about. Versus if you're on a night shift, it's 2 a.m, and a military vet comes up to you who is just having, or their roommate brings them to you because they are having night terrors and flashbacks, and you need to ground them to the point where they realize they are in a treatment center with you and not back out being deployed. That's on the fly work. You develop so much more ability to be able to work with people like you're saying, the real stuff through crisis, real conversations, not only just helping get them out of that space. And then who are they going to come back and talk to afterwards because you've built that kind of rapport and got them through that kind of a situation. So then for somebody who helped support this whole client base at the time, it got up to about 100 people. So you could have 100 clients that you're responsible for as part of a team. You now are starting to unofficially build a caseload for all these people that you've helped in an emergency. You have that rapport, they come back to you, or when are you on shift again? Let's talk then.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a lot of that on the fly, constant counseling and support with folks in this environment. And I gotta tell you, it was pretty great. It was a pretty great experience. So that was a lot of that counseling work that I'd done there. And then for the last couple of years I was with them, then came the digital side, which is again how I grew into the space I am now, why it's such a perfect fit. I built the whole web chat platform for all of their websites. So now people could go on to any one of their websites and start asking for help anonymously. You don't need to give up your name. You don't need to pick up a phone, which weighs 10,000 pounds. You don't have to try to drunkenly slur through none of that. You can anonymously and immediately start feeling out the little tester questions and start getting info. It was such a great additional piece that I got to build for them because I knew it could make treatment that much more accessible for people. It can remove this whole other section of anxiety of asking for help. Asking for help is so hard. So I was able to literally make a system to make that easier for people. What a gift. What a gift. So I did that for a couple of years and then got their whole admissions team trained on it. So then everybody admissions, they could pick up a phone, they could get on web chat. So you have a whole other way you can reach people to help you get that right program. And then I was able to, then develop. And then same too, when you start talking to somebody, still an addict or a family member, lawyer, whoever, reaching out for wanting help in addiction, you're still counseling in that mode too. Now you're just trying to problem solve to get them into the right program. So through that experience, I was able to really then pair these two from having so much of that one-on-one counseling experience now to getting a whole digital aspect to it. And then off we went and started building it as my own thing during COVID. So it's been a hell of a ride, man. You can't write this shit. Yeah, if you'd say, was this the plan? No, it was not. But here we are. And look at how well it turned out. This wasn't the plan, and thank God,
Yeah. I mean, it's that Rolling Stones song, right? Sometimes you don't get what you want, but you get what you need.
Oh,
and
love it.
And life is the master of puppets. I mean, no matter what you want in life, it may have a different outcome for you, but we have to put intention into our days, because if you do want something, it's a hard thing to get. But if you don't at least map it out in some way, you're not intentional about what you do, your actions, your decisions daily, it's that much harder. Something that I've been popped up into my brain a couple times where you were sharing what you were sharing is, there are going to be some people that listen to this that know exactly what we're talking about when we talk about addiction, that have been through this experience, or a family member has. There's some people that don't know it as well, haven't got confronted with that word specifically, family members or their personal life. So correct me if I'm wrong. This is how I look at addiction. I look at human beings as wired in a way to seek comfort. Discomfort feels ucky sometimes, for lack of a better word.
That's a perfect word.
It's hard. Yeah. Discomfort can be painful, can be a form of suffering, can be whatever it is. Everybody knows how they feel inside when I say that word, discomfort. And the way I look at addiction is the unwillingness or lack of know-how, or whatever word you want to choose, of avoiding discomfort. And then they seek that thing that provides them comfort. It doesn't have to be a substance. It doesn't have to be booze. It can be food. It can be sex. It can be social media. It can be whatever. Something pops up into my head. I don't like it. It's there all the time. So I'm going to seek that thing that provides me comfort regularly. And because the brain does that a lot, those thoughts, often many of them we don't have control over. Our control really comes down to which one of those thoughts do we confront or follow or let go. If they're popping up there many, many times a day, and you're having these emotional responses which feel bad, and you don't have a strong reason to go through it or confront it, you go play video games for 10 hours, or you go on social media all day, or you find a substance or a food or sex or whatever it is, and you end up avoiding life in some fashion, trying to numb it. You're just, I'm really, really uncomfortable right now. What can I have now that allows me to have comfort? That's kind of the way that addiction, through my experience and being involved in this community and working over at Cornerstone on the weekend, seems like it is to me. It's this avoidance of discomfort and numbing that pain, avoiding that pain, whatever it is. What do you think?
So overall, yes, and love it. And the language and description and real addiction. And we get to the talk about people hitting their bottoms and like full blown addiction. takes all of that one step further, because everything you just talked about is still intellectualizing and talking about these emotional responses and all of this stuff. So the disease of addiction lies in our reptilian brain. So it's in that same part of, so it's in the same part of our brain where it's fight, flight, freeze, flee, sex, food, like I said, yeah, procreate, whatever, shelter, warm, all of those like basic necessities for survival. That's where it's locked in. So the path, so everything you were just describing and talking about is the path. Where then the switch flips between dependency to then addiction is my brain now has categorized that thing that I reached out for comfort as now an essential to my survival. So it's not, I need drugs to feel good. It's, I need drugs or I'm gonna die. So then when you think, and anybody who has been an addict, known an addict in their life, and say, I can't believe they did such extreme, unbelievable things just to feed their addiction. That's why. Their brain was telling them, you need to do this or you're going to die. So if I'm going to die or this thing, you damn know I'm doing that thing because I don't want to die.
Yeah.
So our brain gets hijacked by this disease. Our brain chemistry physically alters into this, where it now no longer functions the same as a non-addict. I want to say normal person because I don't think they exist. No, right? No, I love being weird. Woo. Anyway, so it then hijacks it. And so now I'm in the same spot on my brain. So then where my brain would go, I need food to live. Oh, but those drugs did a really good job. So instead of the food, I'm just going to go to the drugs. So then my brain now it's in the computing in the same space. This is my survival mechanism now is my addiction. So food, drugs, sex, drugs, or the sex addict, sex, right?
Yeah.
You know, shelter, whatever else, get out of the way, because the addiction, and also too, that's a part of why it gets so hard and complicated. We learn how to get it faster, better, more efficiently, cheaper, whatever. So then my brain is saying,
very efficient.
Oh my God.
That's why they're some of the best entrepreneurs, honestly.
Like, oh, wait, and that's a part of like why I love this work too. It's because we can be some of the most creative people on the planet.
Oh yeah.
You just need to learn how to rewire and refocus that creativity into something else.
Positive. Yeah, it's amazing.
Right? Exactly.
You move mountains for negative. Imagine what you could do for positive.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I've seen it countless times at this stage in my life now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for sure. So anyway, so we got a couple of topics bouncing around here, but that's just that bottom line with it that you were talking about that I wanted to clarify for folks with addiction as to where that difference takes place, and then for it to help explain the behavior, not only to the non-addict, but I remember the first time when I heard an addictions doctor explain that to me, I was like, oh my, like it was one of the most relieving things I'd ever heard in my life. Cause I'm like, you just told me why I function the way I do.
Yeah.
You just made sense out of this. Right. Exactly. Like we were talking about before on like, not just the general therapist, not just my GP, an addictions doctor. So you have that specialized person in the industry. Here's how it works. Oh my God. Great. Now I know what's going on. Now we can work with that.
Yeah. Better understanding of yourself gives you the information you need to make new, more productive decisions and start honing your life again. Something that we could probably talk about for ages. So let's try to keep this tight, this one, because this could be a weekend clinic on its own.
Okay. All right.
Myths and misconceptions. What are people thinking out there about addiction that could be completely misguided? And because of that information, they're making decisions which is moving them away from increasing the quality of their life significantly.
Oh man.
Misconceptions. Just a couple.
Oof. Yeah. Oh. Well, I think the first is that it's a choice. And I think my previous description of how the addict brain works and what the different physical brain functioning is immediately disproved that. That it's a choice. Once you become an addict, no, it is not. Lost the power of choice. That addiction or recovery has something to do with willpower. Nope. Again, missing the point. Or like fight the good fight. Nope. Like that's so much because we live in this North America have this like self-made, self-will society. You know, I always think of the example of Tiger Woods, which is hilarious too, because Tiger Woods is an addict. Just those posters of him winning golf tournaments with the power fist or whatever you call it. And he's like, yeah, like, oh, I did all of this. Like everyone's like, oh, that's amazing. And then look what happens when addiction takes hold. So it's no self-will. No, if you focus on the self-will, fight, and all of any of that sense of combative, pushing through, forcing, that's the wrong path. That's not going to lead you. There are aspects of it, and that's where the weekend talk comes in. So, hey, work with me, folks. Be happy to get more into this with you. But in general, that concept of self-will is not the approach for either an addict or for somebody in recovery. It's the removal of self-will or the understanding of it is you're much more of a key to a success. But again, I dropped that out of nowhere. So many people are going to be like, what are you even talking about? Right.
Well, as long as they can know that, the choice is a big one. And, a lot of us have that idea in their mind of like pushing that boulder up the hill. If I just keep forcing and pushing and pushing and work harder and work harder. And I'm a work hard kind of guy. Many things in my life that I've worked hard at have produced a great deal of satisfaction for me, but there is this surrendering to other parts of your life, acceptance that can make, it seems to be the only door in some cases. And that's essentially what you're saying. This isn't a fight in a way. This isn't a willpower thing. That battery will run out very, very quickly. It's something more than that.
Yeah, exactly. Something more, something deeper, something new. Like it's just a whole other aspect, which is so cool. Being able to find with and work with that is just one of the greatest joys of my life. And it's just that is just such an amazing to be able to find and work with people to find that space for them then to be able to find that liberation themselves and then take all of those tools we were talking about earlier and then applying them properly or much healthier in a much better fashion for themselves. Oh my God. It is so cool. It is so cool. It's so special. And again, we all need help to be able to find it, So
super fulfilling work, man. Super fulfilling work.
Yeah.
I love it. So this is a huge part of your life. It's much more than a business. I would say it's a lifestyle. It's part of who you are as an individual. You live it, you eat it, you breathe it, and you help many people. But let's talk about the fun outside of business. Business can be very fun. Our work, our purpose, obviously very fulfilling, very fun. But what does Lucas get up to just to chill, man? I see that Yoda in the background. You talked about card games. Like what makes you laugh? What do you get into? A couple of points.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Just the total personal side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
What are you getting for fun? What do you got? Hobbies? What do you got going on?
Yeah. Well, so like I said before, big nerd, love magic, love Dungeons and Dragons. Stranger Things was like, I love that show because those kids were me and my friends growing up. I'm like, this is amazing. Like they made a show about a character's named Lucas. Like, come on.
Great show.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Love all of that stuff. Sci-fi, Marvel, the MCU, all of that. Big nerd. Love all of that. Other things I've been doing for fun. You know what? I've just been recently getting back into dancing. I have found a Latin dance studio nearby that does like free social nights or pay at the door, who cares, social nights. So I've been getting back and dancing some salsa and bachata, which is so fun. Like my ex was Cuban from years ago. So it's like, I did all this. I just got to relearn the muscles. Dance. I want to get doing some back to some line dancing at the ranch. Like I grew up going to the Calgary Stampede and doing line dancing with my family when I was a kid. So get back into that some more. And then here in the summer, because like I'm right by Lake Simcoe, man, as soon as I can stand the water, as long as I can stand the water, I'm going to kayak. I love being by the lake, either on a kayak at sunset is like my jam as long as I can. Just being around and by that water, bike ride, run, bring some literature and sit and read, listen to a podcast. Like, finding that other way to get active, get connected in nature, get outdoors. Just all of that stuff is really, really beautiful.
I love it, man. I love it. I mean, I'm not even going to add to it because it's just going to add another 40 minutes. I love that you do all that. So much of that resonates with me and many of the guests that come on the show. Us people in Simcoe County, I know you're in Barrie. A lot of us are in that area, and the nature, the people, the dogs, the water, the mountains. I just love hearing it so much. Yeah. I mean, and nerd out. I love my video games. Playing a little God of War right now, but
nice.
I don't do it all day. You know, I have my tap out moments. Kind of just my co-host was talking about the other day when we had him on the show. He was just like, it just allows me to give the brain a little break, focus on something else rather than all those thoughts.
Yeah, you need
nature will do that too. I went for a wicked walk in our forest down the street yesterday with the dog and little French bulldog. His name is Milo. Everybody loves him.
Yeah, Frenchies are the best. They're so sassy.
They're sassy. He's got the big head, friendly little dude. But nature, those little free things can be so good. I love that you do that. And it doesn't surprise me at all. Let's get into the hard stuff. Although, I mean, we started this conversation by a very raw and real personal experience from you. So you've already alluded to a fair bit. If you only want to dive into it briefly, that's fine. I say this pretty much every time. We celebrate hard things on this show. We talk about them. We shine a big light on them because I think it's one of the most important parts of our human experience is not just celebrating, hey, you're rich, you got a great car, you look great, vacations, all this stuff. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah, and I love that part of life.
Great.
But you're missing a major, major part. And you shouldn't, I don't think you should feel bad about the stumbling, the scraping of the knees, the feeling embarrassed, the rejection, all that stuff.
Oh, failure's the best. Love failing.
That's what I'm going to title podcast. Failure is the best. Recovery with Lucas Shane Wade from Spotlight Recovery. But
do it.
It's those hard things that have now become a practice to many of us that are trying to get the most out of life, that are rather than like, that was really uncomfortable and my body's telling me that it doesn't like discomfort. It's like, no, these practices, meditation, fitness, business, hard conversations, new learning, the language. These are all hard things that frustrate us. But when you move through them and you become good at it, it's insanely fulfilling. And if you become good enough at it to teach other people, you've now found yourself in this extremely magical place, which for me, I talk about it with the team, that is unending fuel. You want to be motivated by something, or you want to have motivation, endless motivation, get good at something, get good enough at it to teach somebody else, and just keep teaching and keep living that and keep doing it and keep teaching. It seems like it's just this part of life, this like universal truth for most of us, an unending fuel. So any trials and tribulations that you've been through that sucked in the moment, you moved through it, probably didn't want to do it, but when you look back in hindsight, you're like, this is an integral ingredient to who I am, and now I can better serve myself and my community because of that really sucky experience.
Oh, so I was just soak it up and listen to everything you were saying. I was just like, okay, man. I really, I'm just, and for the sake of time too, I'm just going to draw back to that first experience of what brought me into recovery and doing all of this, because that is the biggest focal and turning point of my life, was surviving that suicide try. I don't even like the word attempt, and getting through that, because I got to a spot where I genuinely know what it's like to not want to live, and to not only know the feeling and think about it, act on it. And thinking about it and acting on it, I think, are, well, from my experience, are two wildly different things.
I would say.
And and so that is one of my biggest assets. There's not like I can't think of a proper word to describe it. It's one of the most powerful things that I have, that I work through with people, is because you don't have to explain to me what that feels like, because I know. And we don't have to spend all that time talking about getting to that space and that disparity, because I know. And we can if you want, because there's a lot very therapeutic about doing that.
Oh yeah.
And I have been equipped to then be able to show people that path out of that darkness and out of that space. I feel kind of like a recovery Morpheus at times, where I'm like, I can show you the door, you have to walk through it. So I can show and lead you to that space of building that better life. And I'll work with you, but you have to do that work. But I can say with just the utmost confidence and surety that I can help and work with people through these things, because I've been there. And being able to turn that, I love that quote, my mess became my message. So
that's a good one.
Right? So and it's in the word too. Like, it's amazing. You just add on to it. You mess, and then you build on the mess. You get a message, right? So I have come from one of those darkest places I think any human can be and feel and experience, and have now been able to build such a beautiful life out of that. And I'm now spending my career showing people how to get out of that themselves. Like, top that. Like I just, for me, you can't. I'm so lucky. It's just, so yeah, you want to talk about like a bad situation, turn it around. What's the result? When you come out of that, that's what I live today. It's pretty ridiculous.
I love it, man. I love it. What is one thing you wish the audience, people, anybody knew about Spotlight Recovery, specifically, not the industry of addiction, but your business?
And I'm hoping that my tone and all the storytelling we've been doing for the past hour, oh man, we're good at this, for this past hour, all that tone and everything is just expressing the true motive of all of this. Is it's just, we're here to help. We're just here to help. And that's the whole point of all of it. Working with me, be it the channel, be it networking to another service provider, somebody else who's going to then be able to treat you from that point on. Like, we just want to be here to be able to make a difference. Just make this information as accessible, like as attainable and easy to find as possible. And then be able to genuinely get you to where you want to go. Just plain and simple. There's no ulterior motives with any of this. There's no stakeholders. There's no other bullshit. This is all starting and coming from me and my life experience, and this core feeling of like, no, we need to get this out there. And then building a company that's going to carry that message to as many people as we can.
Love it.
That's it.
I love it, man. You pretty much just answered a good portion of my next question, but this is the one I leave out of the questionnaire. And I like to preface it by saying philosophy, psychology, deep thinking, critical thinking has been a monumental pivot in my life. Once I started learning that, I was a jock, I was an athlete, didn't think of myself as an academic. I'm like, they're book people, I'm sports people, and I'm fine in that space.
Yep.
I was good at that thing. And then a couple broken legs and some changes in my journey led to, hey, maybe I can learn some things outside of sports. And very, very lucky to have the mentors that I've had. I pretty much talk about them on every show, especially one woman individual. She, for whatever reason, I was ready to listen. And the things that she said, she was very successful in many different ways, but it was her character. It was the mother she was, not just the entrepreneur, not just her wealth. She was very wealthy, but it was who she was. She seemed to be so playful at life and do it so damn well. She wasn't this staunch, like staff sergeant on herself. She didn't bully herself. It didn't seem that way. She was just playing her way through life like it was a game, and she did it really well. But anyways, one of the things that she taught herself to do, or learned it from somebody else, but it was a major practice in her life, was impact. What kind of impact have I made already? What kind of impact do I want to have today? What kind of impact do I want to have going forward? Being very intentional about becoming aware of the ripple effect of my life up to this point. And then what kind of ripple effect do I want for the rest of my life? And maybe even discuss legacy. Legacy is a different thing for people. For me, 100 years after I die, I'm going to be dust. No one's going to remember me. Maybe if they do, 1,000 years, definitely not. So legacy, I think, is a cool thing, but it's more about soaking the most out of life while I'm here. So she thought it was very prudent to think about, what are the results of your action? What is your impact? So I love to ask people on the show, family, business, the world, whatever it is, because there's no question about it. Some people think that's a really big question, my impact on the world. Well, you're on the world and you're impacting it, and therefore you have an impact on the world. So whatever size you want to do, what kind of impact do you want to leave, man? What kind of impact do you want to have on your world?
Oh, man. And Jeff, I love that. Oh my God. Yes. Like, I'm all fired up. Like you're speaking my language, man. You're speaking my language. But that, like, so much of addiction is so self-focused. Poor me, self-pity, self-fear, self. And then building that and getting a life in recovery, you're able to see that whole world around you. You're able to see that impact you're making. Everything just opens up so much. And then instead, and after you've cleared up all the wreckage of your past, all the damage we do as addicts to others, now you're able to turn around and try to repair that or pay those amends forward and make things better for the future and add and everything instead. It's funny. I won't get into the legacy thing too much. It doesn't resonate with me at all, just based on, I'm not a fan of the word. I haven't connected with it because I can very easily connect it to my ego and me, and then Lucas the Great again, and then off we go. So I would love for that 100 years from now that nobody remembers and my name isn't brought up and mentioned, yet so many more people have found and gotten so much more help in their recovery. I don't want it to be about me. It's funny. I don't want to be connected. That's one of my biggest fears with the YouTube channel, is if it takes off and people recognize me. I don't know why I don't want that. I just want, when you struggle and you're in your disease and your addiction, it's so hard to explain how horrible that feeling is, but all addicts get it. I don't need to tell you how bad the bad gets because you were there. I want to be able to try to take a piece of that freedom that I have found in recovery and give that to you. And then in turn, give that to as many people as I can. And then those people give that to as many people as they can. That's the impact that I want. I want to do my best to explain how free this can really be, and for you to know it and understand it for yourself. Times however many times I can do it. That's what I want to do.
It's a mic drop. And to me, you change, you help somebody helps the next person, they help the next person, they help the next person, the next. And some people get a little intimidated by that. What's your impact on the world going to be questioned, because they don't think they are impacting the world, but we just can't see it most of the time.
Oh,
You are touching
yeah.
gazillions of lives over years and years and years and years. We are all connected in some way. Even if you just crack a smile on somebody's face, their energy comes up and they help the next person crack a smile. And then that goes and goes and goes and goes and goes.
Yep.
But there's some certain things out there can have massive impact on people in a very short period of time. And if you can change the trajectory of somebody's life and they are now aware of the beauty of life, if they were in a split place where they could not see it, now their impact is going to be significant on so many other people. So yeah, I look at it as a world thing. I don't think that I am changing the world. That's not what I'm saying. But I think I would be naive to think that my ripple effect doesn't go beyond the 50 people that are in my life. It goes way beyond. And I love that it's rooted in humility for you, because we know that that's a big part of the community, that your goal is just simply to help people and not Lucas the Great.
Yeah, no.
Awesome, man. How can people find out about you? How do they contact you? What do they do?
Well, it's real easy. SpotlightRecovery.com. We got everything linked there. You can Google Spotlight Recovery, take you to our YouTube channel. It's all connected. My email, straightforward, is lucas@spotlightrecovery.com. But yeah, they're all there. Everything's linked on the website. All the info's there. Easy to reach out and get in touch with us.
Beautiful, man. We are going to be seeing lots of you over the next while. I'm very much looking forward to that. This message is super important. My relationship with you is a true pleasure. I've learned so much from you. I've watched you grow over the last few years. You've certainly impacted me. I see you impact other people. You're just a good dude. You're a wealth of knowledge, and very excited to start the next chapter of the next journey with you, man. It's going to be a hell of a ride. Looking forward to helping a lot of people along the way and seeing your impact, man. That's
the goal. That's the whole point. But yeah, me too. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be a great couple of months. Thank you. Just thanks for having me on. This has been great. And thanks everybody for listening. Take that, your 15-minute episode.
Yeah, I know, right? I said at the beginning, I know this is going to be a long one because Lucas and I have had many, many conversations. Normally these pods are like half an hour, but
we're good at this.
Some people like that long form, great information here, and a great way to find out who this man is, because I think more people need to know those helpers out there. That's who we try to have on the show, people who want to educate the public, have a very valuable service, willing to give it, worth the money. I don't think we should give away all things for free. Some things we should, some things we shouldn't, but it's a very valuable service and it's really going to change your life. You just ask, what's my life worth? And I think you'll find that answer out pretty quickly. That's the people we like to have on the show. You are an exceptional individual, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Hey, thank you so much. Happy to do it again anytime. Well, and then when we got ours up and rolling, you're coming back on that too. It's going to be real exciting.
You'll put me in the hot seat.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.